Let's start. What is UX? Anybody wants to volunteer and tell me what you think UX is? You have to know the answers that you tell are neither wrong or right. You can just open up and talk. That's totally great. User experience, yes, exactly. User experience is UX. So let me go to the next slide. So user experience is a definition given by Don Norman. Anybody have heard about Don Norman? No? Okay, so he is the person who coined the term user experience. He's also known as the father of user experience since he coined the term. So this is what he says. User experience encompasses all aspects of an user's interaction with the company, its services, and its products. So this may sound a little complicated to you, but if I break it down, UX is not just one thing, but it also depends on the rest of the things that the company gives, like the services, other products, how they interact with the customers. All of that is actually the end user's interaction, like the whole experience. If I break it down into even a small thing, let's take a small product, and it's about how users feel about the interaction with the product. For example, let's say Google Meet. That's where we are meeting right now. So how do you feel using it? Do you feel sad? Do you feel happy? Angry? Neutral? What is your feeling towards it? For me, I tried using share option, but apparently I cannot share even though I have given share permissions on my Mac because I have to update my Mac. So I was a bit frustrated. That is my experience. I hope you guys are getting what I'm trying to say. So how you interact with the product, it's not just the product, but this is a small breakdown of what the big picture is. So how you interact with the product and how it makes you feel is the whole user's experience. So at its core, UX is about ensuring that the user find value in what you're trying to provide them. So what do user UX designers do? What do you think that we do? Anybody wants to say something? Okay, not yet. Right, so we don't just prettify the user interfaces and then show it to the customers, but that is a lot more than that. Maybe you have seen this somewhere, this quote. Everybody knows Steve Jobs. So he said that design is not just what it looks like and feels like, it's also how it works. This pretty much sums it up. It's not just how it looks, not just how it looks and not just how it feels, but also how it works. So all of these bring up the user experience. Okay, so let me go to the next slide, that is the UX process. So as UX designers, we have to follow a process to bring quality products to the market. Otherwise, you can just do something, develop it, and then ship it. But that's not how it works. I am not going to talk to you in depth about the UX process, but because that's going to take a lot of time. Let me brush it over. Somebody sent a chat. Makes user feel easy to use it in the first sight. Yes, that is the good experience. If you feel easy using a product, yes. Yeah, moving back to my slide. First, the first step in the process starts with research, where we call research and discovery. So what you do here in this step is you understand your client. First, you need to know what your client wants. And you need to understand about the users. What is your target audience? How do they do that task right now? What are their pain points? Also, you need to know the system restrictions. What can the system do and what can't it do? Also, the product requirements. You have to talk to your clients and talk about the requirements. And also, you need to know what your competitors are doing. This is not just to copy what they're doing, but to see what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong, and how you can improve on that. Yeah, so during this phase, you do a lot of research. And then after that research, we analyze all that data. And by analyzing, you can define your users, you can break down the target audiences, you can bring up, create personas, etc. Then you can create the scope of the project. That is for yourself. This is not for the developers, but what the UX designers have to do. And then you can create the user journeys, etc. In the next one, that's what we call foundation design. That is where you create the structure of the project. Like you create the information architecture, you create the user flows, you can create the naming, etc. And then this is visual design. That is what a lot of designers like to do because it's the most fun phase. Here we create the look and feel of the app. So we start with sketches on pen and paper because it's easily discardable. And then when it's okay, we put it to low fidelity wireframes. And if that's okay, we put to the high fidelity wireframes. Also, we create prototypes, animations, etc. And we move on to the next one. That is a validation phase. After you've done everything, you test it with your peers just to say that if anything could be improved. And if that's okay, then we move on to the client. We show the client and get their approval. If not, we iterate. And then we test it with users also just to see whether we built the right product for them. So after we get users' feedback, it's all a circle. It's not just one thing in the process that you can tick off. You have to go back and back and back, and it's like a complete round. And you have to iterate on this to bring the best results. I hope you guys are a little clear on what I'm saying. If you have any questions, please put it in the chat and we can have a look at it later. Okay, so maybe I've been talking about a bit of jargon. So let me simplify what the day looks like for us. I'm pretty sure you've heard about Agile, right? I don't know whether you've studied it yet. There's a methodology called Agile that you can learn separately. So the day starts with daily scrum with the team. So now we have a team of UX designers. Mind you, all of these depends on the company. The process depends on the company. How things work in the day depends on the company. What your job role depends on the company. So here what I'm talking to you about is about my company. So we start with the daily scrum. We talk about what we did yesterday, if we have any bottlenecks, and about the plan today. And if you need any help, we also bring that up. So after we finish the daily scrum with the team, we go to the respective project daily scrum if they practice Agile. And if there's anything to be solved, if they have any bottlenecks, if there's anything to be solved from the UX side, we talk it then and there and try to get that sorted. Then we come back to our seat or start with our daily tasks. So just like the developers, we also have a requirement backlog. And we take one requirement, like one task, and maybe divide it into small workable chunks. So it's easy for us to complete within probably 1 hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, etc. So we take one task, and depending on where we are at the project, maybe we are at the starting level, maybe we are somewhere there in the middle, maybe we are at the end of it, like we've tested most of it. So what's rest to do is like to complete small tasks. So depending on where we are at the project, we start designing or like doing things, like I said, doing things by scratch or work on high fidelity design. So during the day, we have to attend a lot of meetings. Most of them are with the stakeholders, meaning your clients. Some of them are with the developer team as well, because, hello guys, can you share, can you see my screen?
Yeah, of course we can.
Okay, because I'm not seeing anything. Thank you. So yeah, the meetings. We talk with the stakeholders. Like I said, some of them are with the developer team. Maybe they have concerns regarding the designs that we give. Maybe APIs can't support. So we need to like resolve those matters as well. And sometimes when you're designing for very long hours, there's something called a design block. It's like you can't pump any new ideas anymore, and you feel like you're wasted. That happens when you're very stressed or when you design for a long period. So then when things like that happen, we talk with the fellow designers. Maybe I can talk to the person who's next to me and ask whether they can find anything wrong with the screen that I'm doing, or they could find anything to improve on. So talking with people helps a lot and helps to clarify things. So when we finish a design, we quickly test within the team just to see whether they could spot something to improve. And then we also test with non-designers just to see whether they actually understand what we are trying to articulate. And then if that's okay, we create prototypes, because that's how we present to the stakeholders and especially the top management. If all okay, if they give the feedback and everything's okay, then we prepare to test with the real users. So this testing with the real users is another different process that takes some time. So we're definitely not going to talk about it now because I have to talk in depth. So yeah, pretty much this is what the day looks like. It's mostly revolves around talking to people, getting ideas on paper and sketching, and then putting that to design, and validating if what we did was right or wrong. So since I told you about you have to talk with a lot of people, I thought of jotting down like what kind of the people you can interact with or you have to interact with. But mind you, this also depends on the company. So for us as UX designers, you definitely have to talk to your client. They are also known as the business owners or business unit. Sometimes you have to talk to your top management. Maybe the top management is the client, or maybe they are separate entity. But yes, you have to deal with the top management as well. And then the developers, they are the ones who develop your designs. So let's come back to this later because I have another point. And then yes, and other designers, they help you make your designs better all the time. And business analysts, they are within the development team. Data analysts, if you really want stats and past analytics. And then definitely users, you can't miss them. It doesn't matter whether you're in a small company or a big company, you definitely have to talk to your users. And then there are project managers. And if what you're doing is related to other businesses, yes, them as well. Okay, so specialties in the field. Next one is specialties. Since I was talking to you about different roles, I thought of talking to you about different ways that you can move on with this job role. But I have to mention that this is not like a carved in stone kind of thing, because this field keeps on evolving all the time and it keeps on changing. So this is what I see at the moment in the field. But a lot of people don't specialize. They are mostly generalists because that's also again upon the maturity of the company. If the company is small, what I mean is UX maturity, not about the business. If the company is small, if the UX is not so mature of a thing, maybe they don't hire specialists. And it's really good if you can be a generalist at first, and then you can find your passion and be a specialist if you want. Yeah, first one is the interaction designer. So they focus on how users interact with the product. Like they make using the product smooth so the user doesn't feel alien in the environment. They feel natural and helpfully guided. Also, there are illustrators. So this is not a very popular specialty at the moment, but it's getting popular as I see. You may have seen really beautiful graphics that complement the app. So these graphics again nudge the users in the correct direction and help convey the message the product wants to tell. So they also help in creating a beautiful environment so that users feel welcome in the app or the website or the product. So, visual designer. So, visual designers craft the visual language of the application. Most of the time, they are who at the moment, most of the time, they're the ones who do interaction design and illustrating as well. So again, like I said, depends on the company's maturity. So they visual designers altogether make design appealing for the end customer. And then there's the user researcher. They perform user research, user testing, and they are the ones who know the users very well because they interact with the users. So they actually spend most of their time with users. So they help the team validate whether they are building the right product for the right users. They also help in decision making because they analyze a lot of data. And then there's the information architect. I feel like I should say that this is the person who creates the backbone of the design solution. They create the structure of the solution, like how things are categorized and what goes where. So they mostly, it's like they organize things. And then there's the UX writer. They craft words. So you may think that writing something down is easy and not a very important task. But mind you, it's a very important step in creating user experience because that is part of how a good story is told. So within UX, terminology is microcopy because we see text in small amounts, not like huge paragraphs. So mostly the UX writer does microcopy, and they help setting the right tone of voice for the product. And then there's a usability analyst, also known as a UX analyst. What they focus on is about the usability of the product, like how usable, how useful, how efficient, how easy to navigate the product is. So they will focus on these metrics and help team find ways that they could improve the product and how to create more conversion. Then there's the UI UX developer. So this is part designer and part developer. A lot of companies around the world, including Sri Lanka, have this model because I think it's easy for them because you design the product and then you also implement the product. There are pros and cons to this role. But yeah, it's up to you to figure out what you want to do. So first, like I said earlier, I would say be a generalist at first, then find your passion. So this field, the field of UX is ever changing. New things are coming up all the time. So try to apply Darwin's theory and be open to new change, otherwise you can't survive. So try to broaden your skill set and try new things. Moving on to the next one, what you can do to become a good UX designer if you're somewhere there. If you're interning, maybe you want to be a UX designer. Sorry. Yeah, what can you do? Be curious. Be curious all the time because it's very helpful in clarifying things. Ask questions like a 5-year-old, it doesn't matter. Because maybe you may look stupid for a while, but that brings a whole lot of clarity to everybody around you when you ask questions. So even now when I'm asking you to talk with me, don't be shy. I'm not judging you, nobody's judging you, but you learn something new if you ask questions. But if you keep it yourself, maybe that opportunity is lost somewhere. So think about it a little bit more. And then have empathy. So this is very, very important if you want to be a good UX designer. If you can't walk in other people's shoes and see in their perspective, I think that's not a very good thing because you have to see other people's perspective as well. You're not designing for yourself, you're designing for somebody else. So have a listening ear, be careful to listen and talk, and have empathy so that you can see the other side of the picture as well. And also self-learn. Don't ever stop learning. That's why my mother used to say, learn till you die. Because if you stop learning, then you don't know things. So if you want to move on with this field, you definitely need to learn. Like nobody will come to you and teach you things. Like even when you're doing your degree, self-learn because otherwise you lose that time. And then learn to communicate. So if you remember that I said you have to talk to your clients and you have to talk to the top management, sometimes you need to convince them that why you did this solution. Sorry. Because they might not see the value in it, and sometimes you have to tell why and what made you do it. So you have to learn to communicate. It's not easy. I know it's really difficult sometimes to tell what's on your mind. That comes out completely different when you say it. But practice, because practice makes things better. And then be the user's advocate. So you're designing for your user. Yes, you have to listen to your company or your client, because we're trying to fulfill their business requirements as well. But if you have a seat at the table, there's nobody else representing the user other than you. So you have to talk on behalf of your user, otherwise the purpose will be lost. And then do research. So you can do competitive analysis. It's not all that bad. You're just trying to learn things. And you can study statistics. You can read any research papers if you want. You can study your users. Do a lot of research. Also, get feedback by testing. This is also a mode of research in a way, because you're searching to see if your product is what the users want, if you build the right product. So always get feedback. It's not just the users. Maybe you can get designers feedback. Maybe you can get your managers feedback. You can get your clients feedback. You have to get a lot of people's feedback, and that's how you create a great product. And then observe a lot of things. Observe how people behave, like on certain situations. It's really funny to observe people, because you learn new things, but don't be creepy. And then pay attention to detail. When you pay attention to small matters, that's where the magic lies. When you notice small things, people fall in love with it. So when you're like creating a product, try to pay attention to small details, because sometimes that is all that matters for that person. And then learn to ask for help. So this is a problem I think a lot of people face when they're starting off their career. They think when you're a UX designer, you have to do everything alone. But that's not the case, because a UX designer's role is like a collaborative task. You have to collaborate with a lot of people. You have to like jam up all these ideas into something new. But you're not there alone. Don't think you're alone. Talk to your friends, talk to your designers, find other designers that you can talk to, find a mentor if you want. Go to your client and say, I don't know how to do this. Maybe you can change the requirements. What can we do about this? Maybe you can find a workaround. You can just talk to people and ask for help. That helps a lot. Okay, so my thoughts for you, Unilife. You don't have to be a UX designer. You don't have to want to be a UX designer, but probably you can apply some of it. So intern, don't forget to intern. I'm not sure that it's mandatory for y'all at the moment, but even if it's not mandatory, try to intern, because that's how you experience new things. You can experiment. You can get a BA's job role and see whether that works for you. You can get the job role of a software engineer and see whether that works for you. I'm telling that from experience, because I have a degree specialized in software engineering. And I figured that I don't want to do it in the long term. So I switched to UX because I could intern and see that I like it. So please experiment new things. And then train your eye. If you want to be a designer, please train your eye, because that is the most important thing, and that's where you will notice the smallest things. And then don't focus on learning a specific software. This is something a lot of people ask me. If you want to be a UX designer, what software do I need to learn? So I always tell, don't be a specialist in a software, because these things can be learned, but you can't learn your skills. So maybe work on 1 or 2 softwares that you're comfortable with and start designing, because the design is what matters, and not what the skill that you have with the particular software, because they get updated all the time and new things come up all the time. And then try different things. Yeah, I think that goes with what I told earlier regarding interning. So try different things that you would like to do. Start drawing, start, animating things and see whether you like it. Start coding and see whether you like it. Be a BA and like see whether you like writing technical stories. Find what you like to do. And then learn to back up your ideas. Whether you're a UX designer or somebody else, when you put up an idea on the table, learn to back it up. You can't say, I don't know why I did that, because people will always ask why. So you may not know it in your head. So try to find out reasoning that goes with communication. So learn to back up the reasons that you did. And then improve the soft skills. These things cannot be learned. So improve on what you already have. And then get used to being criticized and provide constructive criticism. So a lot of people think that criticism is bad. Actually, it's not that bad, but it's helpful. But it depends on the way that you get criticized or you criticize. So learn to give constructive criticism, which means don't be rude, don't be offensive. Be honest and say what went right and what went wrong. Both. Don't be so negative all the time. So when you give constructive criticism, you say what went right and what went wrong and what you could improve on. So you also have to train yourself to be criticized, because that comes all the time. It may hurt the first time or the first few times, but you have to get used to it. Also, you have to learn how to give good criticism also. That's another important skill. And then network. Talk to people, because a UX designer's job is like you have to be a people's person sometimes, most of the time. So learn to network, talk to people, be curious about the world. That's how you learn a lot of new things. And then what you can do right now. Maybe you are aspiring to become a UX designer. So let's see what you can do. Build your portfolio, create your online portfolio. That's something that I would like to really stress, because that is the way that the hiring managers see you online. Because before hiring you or before calling you for an interview, they might search you online, go to your portfolios and see whether your work is good or not. So depending on that, then they will call you. So it's really important nowadays to have a portfolio. And then if you don't have any projects to work on, do dummy projects. It's totally fine. If you don't have any idea what to work on, just think of a solution and then do a design. Also, don't forget to get inspired, because that's how you can create new ideas on top of it. So, yeah. And the next one is learn your basics. Sorry. It's really important that you know something about the subject before stepping into it. So study and see whether you like learning about it. Otherwise, you can't stay in this job for a long time. So study your basics, know what you're getting into. And then have empathy. Like I said earlier, walk in other people's shoes, see their perspective, because if you don't have empathy, then there's actually no point becoming a UX designer, I would say. And then plan. So this is a skill that you have to learn in a little advance, because it's very useful. Sometimes, depending on the company, you may have to work on multiple projects at once. So if you don't know how to plan it, it becomes a pretty stressful situation. So if you know this is how you plan and this is how you could spend your time, because you don't want to spend all the time working, right? You also have a life outside. So you need to know how you can plan that life for you. And then fall in love with what you do. If you don't love doing what you do, then it's not a very sustainable job that you're going to take. So that's why you need to experiment and see what you want to do. And then if you really love it, stay on it, study about it, and then improve. One more thing I want to add is learning and inspiration. So these are the places that I take most inspiration and learning from. Anybody who knows all these 6 logos? No? Come on, guys, you didn't talk to me. Nobody knows what all this is? Okay, who knows the first one? Who knows what this is? Wow, you guys don't know what this is and use it almost every day? Hmm. Okay, somebody says YouTube. Okay, great. Next one. What is the next one? Medium. Superb. Next one. Pinterest. Cool. Next one. Oh, somebody knows all of this. Pravani. Great. Okay, so you guys know all about it. So first one is YouTube. YouTube is a really cool channel to learn a lot of new things. So please learn things. These days you have enough time on your hands. So you can spend a lot of time learning things. Medium is also another great channel to learn things, explore new ideas, see what people think, because most of it is about people's opinions, but that is also great. I find it as a great medium. Pinterest also has great, it's like a mood board, and like you can create mood boards as well. It's like a collection of all the cool things around the world. Dribble is somewhere you can design and put your designs as well. That can be used as a design portfolio as well. So mind you, Behance is also the same. You can use both of them as an online portfolio if you want to showcase your designs. Instagram can also be the same, but also you can use it as a learning medium. So all of these can be used to learn and get inspired from. One more thing, if anybody is interested in designing and want to have a Dribble portfolio, you can ping me. I have one invitation and I can draft you, one of you who was here. So yeah, that's about it. That's about my session.